Hello, I'm Dan Williams, the Media Relations Director for the City of Cleveland, and this is the bottom line up front. In this edition of Bluff, I will discuss some things that everyone should know about Memorial Day. Memorial Day is a federal holiday in the United States for remembering the people who died while serving their country in the armed forces. The holiday, which is observed every year on the last Monday of May, originated as Decoration Day after the American Civil War in 1868, when the Grand Army of the Republic, an organization of Union veterans founded in Decatur, Illinois, established it as a time for the nation to decorate the graves of the war dead with flowers. By the 20th century, competing Union and Confederate holiday traditions celebrated on different days had merged, and Memorial Day eventually extended to honor all Americans who died while in the military service. It typically marks the start of the summer vacation season, while Labor Day marks its end. Many people visit cemeteries and memorials, particularly to honor those who have died in military service. Many volunteers place an American flag on each grave in national cemeteries. There often is a religious service and a picnic-like dinner on the ground, the traditional term for a potluck meal, in which people used to spread the dishes out on sheets or tablecloths on the ground. It is believed that this practice began before the American Civil War and thus may reflect the real origin of Memorial Day idea. Memorial Day is not to be confused with Veterans Day. Memorial Day is a day of remembering the men and women who died while serving, while Veterans Day celebrates the service of all U.S. military veterans. The practice of decorating soldiers' graves with flowers is an ancient custom. Soldiers' graves were decorated in the U.S. before and during the American Civil War. A claim was made in 1906 that the first Civil War soldiers' graves ever decorated was in Warrenton, Virginia, on June 3, 1861, implying the first Memorial Day occurred there. In 1863, the cemetery dedicated at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, was a ceremony of commemoration at the graves of the dead soldiers. Local historians in Boalsburg, Pennsylvania, claim that ladies there decorated soldiers' graves on July 4, 1864. As a result, Boalsburg promotes itself as the birthplace of Memorial Day as well. Following President Abraham Lincoln's assassination in April of 1865, there were a variety of events of commemoration. The sheer number of soldiers of both sides who died in the Civil War, more than 600,000, meant that burial and memorialization took on new cultural significance. Under the leadership of women during the war, an increasingly formal practice of decorating graves had taken shape. In 1865, the federal government began creating national military cemeteries for the Union war dead. In 1915, following the Second Battle of Ypres, Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, a physician with the Canadian Expeditionary Force, wrote the poem In Flanders Fields. Its opening lines refer to the fields of poppies that grew among the soldiers' graves in Flanders. On Memorial Day, the flag of the United States is raised briskly to the top of the staff and then solemnly lowered to half-staff position, where it remains only until noon. It is then raised to full staff for the remainder of the day. The half-staff position remembers the more than 1 million men and women who gave their lives in service to their country. At noon, their memory is raised by the living, who resolve not to let their sacrifice be in vain, but to raise up in their stead and continue the fight for liberty and justice for all. The National Memorial Day concert takes place on the west lawn of the United States Capitol. The concert is broadcast on Public Broadcasting System and National Public Radio. Music is performed and respect is paid to the men and women who gave their lives for their country. For many Americans, the central event is attending one of the thousands of parades held on Memorial Day in large and small cities all over the United States. Most of these feature marching bands and an overall military theme with the National Guard and other servicemen participating along with veterans and military vehicles from various wars. In 2000, Congress passed the National Moment of Remembrance Act, asking people to stop and remember at 3 p.m. The bottom line? Memorial Day is a federal holiday observed every year on the last Monday of May and originated as Decoration Day after the American Civil War in 1868 in Decatur, Illinois. By the 20th century, Memorial Day extended to honor all Americans who died while in military service. On Memorial Day, the flag of the United States is raised briskly to the top of the staff and then solemnly lowered to the half-staff position, where it remains until noon. The half-staff position remembers the more than 1 million men and women who gave their lives in service to their country. At noon, their memory is raised by the living who resolve not to let their sacrifice be in vain. In 2000, Congress passed the National Moment of Remembrance Act, asking people to stop and remember at 3 p.m. Whatever your tradition, whatever you do to celebrate this solemn day, remember to pause and honor the memory of those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. I'm Dan Williams, and this has been The Bottom Line Up Front.